want the scariest true story?
I grew up in a funeral home. I helped out in the office. When I was about 15, we got a call from a man whose wife and infant baby had been murdered in cold blood. There were very few clues. It made headlines. Cops set up surveillance at the viewing. It was heartbreaking as the mother was holding the baby in her arms. I was asked to take the flower cards and periodically get the husband and ask if he recognized the names. I then photocopied them and put them back. I did it because I was a kid, people knew me, and I was unobtrusive. I talked to the husband quite a bit. He seemed devastated and shaken. The cops told me they had an eyewitness to someone leaving the house the day of the murder. The witness was a 3-year-old girl. She recognized the man leaving. It was the husband's best friend. Turns out that the friend and the husband had made a pact to kill each other's families and run off with their secretaries. The little girl identified the friend, and I guess one of them cracked. They both went to jail on multiple counts, all on the testimony of a 3-year-old. I still cannot believe to this day that that man stood right beside me multiple times and I had no clue. I don't think I ever looked at life the same way after that. My great aunt woke up in the middle of the night. She heard her dog making these low growls. She was single at the time and living alone in her ranch-style home. She walked out to her living room to check things out. She didn't see or hear anything out of the ordinary, so she decided to make sure her door and front windows were locked. Door was locked. First window she checked was locked. When she lifted the mini blind on the second window, it was wide open, and a guy in a ski mask was standing there. She said he laughed this evil laugh and said, "Party time." Then he started to climb in. She screamed that she had a gun. Her dog started barking his head off. The would-be rapist decided to bolt. My aunt did get a gun after that and learned how to use it. I can't even think about what would have happened to her if she didn't have her dog to warn her.
James Bulger. He was just 2 years old and with his mom running errands. She let go of his hand to pay the cashier and he wandered away. 2 10-year-old boys spotted him, lured him toward them, took him by the hands and led him away. They took him to a remote location, pushing and kicking at him the whole time. Some people questioned the 2 kids with the crying toddler, but they lied, saying he was their brother and nobody intervened further. They took him to a secluded spot and tortured him. I don't want to recount the torture details, it's just too gruesome. They left his body on some railroad tracks, hoping that being run over by a train would make it look like an accident. He was found days later, his body severed in half by a train. The boys were caught and became the youngest convicted murderers in British history. Security footage from the day they took James shows them watching children picking out a target. And they were just kids themselves. They were released at 18. One of them is back in jail for possessing child abuse photos on his computer. The most terrifying thing about this for me is that my own son is only 2 now, and James's murderers were just children too. It was premeditated and intentional and entirely random. Just a momentary lapse in attention, and he became a target of 2 murderous children. Children. To think that children younger than my stepson are capable of such a thing. Ugh. Everything about this case is just horrifying. I served a short stint as a fireman. There was a RTA call one morning, 30 minutes after I started my shift. This guy got T-boned while driving home after a night of heavy drinking. He got T-boned on the passenger's side when he ran a red light. His wife died instantly and he pretty much remained unharmed. When we arrived at the scene, he was outside his car while the wife was still seated in the passenger seat. Her lower body was still in her seat while her upper torso splayed over to the driver's side. Looks like she was just reaching over to the driver's side to open the door. Just that she's unconscious and non-reactive. No blood at all from what we can see from the driver's side. The passenger's door was caved in badly. The driver was still tipsy and thought nothing of what's happening, kept asking us to hurry up and extract his wife so that they can head back home. Laughing and fumbling around with the police. When the paramedics realized that there was no pulse, we tried extracting her from the driver's side and we realized that her lower left body, her left pelvis to her thigh, was completely crushed and she was impaled through her left abdomen by a piece of the door. When we told him that his wife has died, probably bled out minutes after the impact, you could see the disbelief, stop kidding me, slowly morphing into realization then ending up as desperation. He was immediately sober and ran over to the driver's side, tried to pull his wife out. It tore her wound up and we had to drag him out. He then proceeded to the passenger side and tried to pry the cave door open. We left the scene then and let the police handle the aftermath. Saw it on the news that afternoon. The new London school explosion. A school in Texas in 1937 tried to tap into natural gas on their own, and it ended up leaking and blowing up the school. It's the reason they make natural gas scented in Texas and probably the US now. I'm amazed I never heard of this in school because it seems like something that should be taught. I read some survivor stories and I had fucking nightmares. It was horrible. 3 in particular stuck with me. One was a 7 or 8-year-old girl. She saw her best friend and playmate with her entire body crushed by concrete with only her shoulders and head above it, and she still had a lollipop in her mouth like she didn't know what happened. Another was a guy, I think a 16 to 17-year-old, helping undig people and bring them out of the wreckage. He saw a dad holding his daughter crying his eyes out while the back of the girl's head was broken open with her brain on the ground next to her. The last was a 9-ish-year-old girl who went to find her mom after it happened. There was a PTA meeting going on at the time, so there was a lot of parents at the scene. Her mom was freaking out trying to find her, but didn't even recognize her. She went up to her mom and called out to her, but she just kept saying, "You're not my daughter." She was so covered in blood and ash and tears that her own mother couldn't recognize her. It was a truly horrible